I'm back. What's up? Another episode of Let's Discuss. I do a lot of reviews on this channel, and I was like, I need to actually discuss just a topic and not a review. And so I was like, what can I discuss? And then it hit me. What do I talk to about myself all the time? The Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's what. I know I feel like I talk about the MCU a lot on here because of WandaVision, but it's literally just WandaVision. I haven't talked about any other MCU titles. So, and this one's been burning in my head for a while, so I was like, let's do it. So welcome to my channel, Let's Discuss, where I talk about random entertainment topics like film, TV, music, award season, anything else I can think of that falls into the entertainment bracket, which is a lot, so it's probably very broad. But yeah, that's what we do here on Let's Discuss. And today we're going to be discussing something I've been a stan of since the olden days. I have vague memories of seeing Iron Man 3 in theaters. And then I think the last MCU movie I remember seeing in theaters was Civil War. And I can't remember if I've seen the other ones in theaters. No, I can definitely remember seeing like the later ones like Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Spider-Man. Oh, and I did see Doctor Strange. But I don't know if I saw Guardians, or I didn't like Captain America, so I didn't watch that until Civil War. And I don't remember that Iron Man because those are old. I don't remember if I saw Avengers in theater. I have a very, very sporadic memory of what I've seen in theaters and what I haven't. So, but anyways, I'm not going to discuss the whole of the MCU. I'm just going to discuss two things that have been, well, four, because they all kind of tie into each other, that have been burning my head and that I've been yelling to myself about and to my friends on Snapchat about since 2019. And that is Avengers Infinity War, Endgame, then Captain Marvel, and then Black Widow. They all connect to each other, and you'll see why. So let's dive in. I have not created, if I've created an intro, it'll be here. If I haven't, we're just gonna go into it. So let's start with Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. I recently rewatched Infinity War, and I can safely say that it's better than Endgame. That's probably a popular opinion nowadays, but back when Endgame was out and the hype was real, everyone was like, Endgame is better. And then I was like, is it though? Is it though? I personally feel like Infinity War is much better. Not much, but it's better. It's not like the margin is here's Endgame and here's Infinity War. It's more like here's Infinity War and here's Endgame. But Infinity War is better. It is for me. The viewing experience, the hype for it, and then the actual movie itself, stellar. Once in a lifetime. It will never be recreated. I remember when the Infinity War trailer dropped and we all lost our minds. I remember watching that and I was like, when it was like, there was an idea. That trailer hit. It was so good. And the hype was so good because it was the first time something like this had ever been done on the big screen. And it was so good. Remember all those memes about how Infinity War is the most ambitious crossover, and then everyone was bringing up the crossovers from like Disney Channel when Hannah Montana was on Sweet Life, and That's a Raven was on Sweet Life, and all of those crossovers. It was a time. It was what a time to be alive. It was so fun. All of our theories, we all thought Tony was gonna die. No spoilers. It's been out for over a year. You've seen it, and if you haven't, you won't. And you won't be watching this video if you haven't seen it, so no spoiler warning. I'm sorry. It's been out. But anyways, we all thought Tony was gonna die. We didn't know what was gonna happen. There was that shot where Thanos was choking Peter, and then all the fan fiction writers were like writing some sad-ass fan fiction about Peter dying and Tony seeing it, which was what happened, but you know. And it was just so exciting. I remember getting my tickets. I was freaking out. I was texting my friend. I was like, which seats do you want? Tell me now, because I'm buying it now. Oh my God. It was such a time. The press tour, when they were all on doing those interviews, and it was all the cast members from all these different Marvel movies, it was so fun. Everyone was worried that Tom Holland was going to spoil it. And I think Mark ended up being the one that spoiled it. And everyone was worried that he was going to spoil it too. It was so fun. I remember, and everyone was like, oh, we gotta rewatch all the Marvel films to watch Infinity War. So much fun. I didn't rewatch all the Marvel movies to watch Endgame because I'd already done it for Infinity War. It's the hype will never be recreated. It's so one of a kind. And then the movie itself was so much fun. Like, who would have thought you can combine 20 movies worth of characters, put them all in one film, and it works, and it's a blast. It was so fun. That scene, the scenes, my favorite scenes were with the Guardians, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, and Peter. Those were so chaotic. Oh my god, the memes. Let me ask you this. What master do you serve? Master, do I serve? What am I supposed to say? Jesus? Comedy. Top tier comedy. And he's like, you're from Earth. No, I'm from Missouri. Yeah, that's an Earth, dipshit. God tier comedy. I swear to God, those were my favorite scenes.
Advantage. He's coming to us. We'll use it.
All right, I have a plan. Or at least the beginnings of one. It's pretty simple. We draw him in, pin him down, get what we need. Definitely don't want to dance with this guy. We just want the gauntlet. Are you yawning? In the middle of this while I'm breaking it down? Huh? Did you hear what I said?
Stop listening after you said we need a plan.
Okay, Mr. Clean's on his own page.
See, not winging it isn't really what they do.
What exactly is it that they do?
Kick names, take ass.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, just get over here, please. We gotta coalesce. Because if all we come at him with is a plucky attitude...
Dude, don't call us plucky. We don't know what it means. All right, we're optimistic, yes.
It's all about the dance-off to save the universe.
What dance-off?
It's not.
Like in Footloose, the movie?
Exactly like Footloose. Is it still the greatest movie in history?
It never was.
Don't encourage this, all right?
Excuse me? But does your friend often do that?
Strange! You all right?
It was so fun. It was hilarious. I think those were my favorite scenes. I liked the scenes too with Cap, Cap, Black Widow, Sam, Bucky. Who else was there? Jesus, Wanda. The scenes with Wanda and Vision hit different now that I've watched WandaVision. It hits different. When she was like killing him and he was like, you could never hurt me. I love you. I was like, damn. Shit. Give Wanda a break. I'm sorry, Wanda. You've been through enough, so no wonder you've created an entire reality and trapped a whole bunch of people in it. Yikes. I won't spoil WandaVision, don't worry. It was so fun. Infinity War is just a fun movie. I could watch that over again, have a blast. And then the ending, I feel so bad for anyone that got the ending ruined for them. My friend did, and I was like, damn, that sucks, because that was such a shocking ending. I did not believe it. But when you look back, it does make sense, because then what the heck would they do for Endgame if it didn't go that way? But I still didn't see it coming. Did we even know Endgame was happening at that point? I don't know, I can't remember, but it was such a shock. I remember watching the reactions online of people watching Spider-Man get dusted away, and everyone was like, no! I was crying. Peter's my BB. I'd die for him. I would. And so seeing him die, and he was like, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I was like, dang it. I was like, sad. And then I remember everyone going back to the trailer and realizing that the dust that Tony had on his hand in the trailer was Peter's dust, and everyone was like, dang. That was such a shocking ending. I still remember sitting there and being like, so they're dead. Even though we all knew they would come back, it was still like such a shock. It's like something you didn't see coming. So if someone got that ruined for them, I feel so bad, because that was such a good, shocking ending. It was so good. Infinity War was a 10 out of 10 experience. Maybe 11 out of 10 experience. If I could relive Infinity War, I would. That was such a fun era. Wow. Endgame was fun too, because it was the ending. It was the finale of this 11 year long, 22 film long era of MCU films. It was the end. So of course it was very exciting and very dramatic. I remember buying tickets for it. And the only reason I got tickets was because my nose was stuffed and I woke up at like 7 a.m. to go put Vicks on it, which you're not even supposed to do. But I did it anyways. And then I saw the time and I was like, Endgame tickets, oops. And then I got on and I was like, these tickets are already nearly sold out. But I got my tickets for Friday night, the Friday it came out. My friend and my sister got to go the Thursday it came out. But I saw it the Friday night it came out. And that was fun. Endgame is a fun movie, especially the portal scene. I cried at the portal scene. I did. On your left, I cried. I'm a little too invested, but I did. I cried. listen, I do not, we'll get into this in a second, but this is not just because I'm a Tony stan, but I don't think Tony should have snapped. I think it should have been Cap. We'll get to that in a second. But back to why I think Endgame isn't as good as Infinity War. Well, that thing's 3 hours long. I have not watched Endgame since it came out in theaters. I saw it twice when it came out in theaters, and I haven't seen it since. Mostly because it's 3 hours, and I have to psych myself up to see a 3-hour movie, especially when that's the way it's gonna end. I have to psych myself up for it. But the whole time heist thing was fun. It was fun stuff, and I liked it. I do like Endgame. Endgame isn't a horrible movie. I just don't think it's as good as Infinity War. Endgame, I don't know. I don't think the hype for me with Endgame wasn't as hype that it was with Infinity War, because we'd already seen it with Infinity War, and Endgame was really just about the finality of it all, which was good too. But I just like that Infinity War was like, this is the first time this ever happened. It's so fun. It's a blast where everyone's having a good time. It was like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. And that's just why I just put Infinity War higher. I think my viewing experience, the movie itself, I feel like was better than Endgame. And it's just fun. And then Endgame is good, but like, I have so many problems with Endgame. Towards the end of Endgame, the beginning half of Endgame is good with the whole time heist thing, but then the end half of Endgame gets a little confusing, and then it gets a little messy, and then I'm like, oh, what's happening? Why is, a lot of things happening. So I guess we can get into that now. What are my problems with Endgame that make me put it below Infinity War? First one being, this is not just because I'm a Tony Stark stan and I love him, but Cap should have snapped. Cap should have died, and Tony should have lived. And I will now explain that. Listen, they were going to kill him anyways. Why did we have him go back in time to be with Peggy? What was that about? I thought he was over Peggy. Did he not try to date Peggy's niece? Did he not kiss Peggy's niece? I thought he was over her. But all of a sudden you have a little flashback scene or a little time heist scene where he's in the past and he sees Peggy again, and suddenly he's like, I still love her. I'm not over it. I love her still. And I'm like, what? Why? They have him go back in time and replace or put back all the Infinity Stones, and then he goes and chills with Peggy. Why? And then he comes back and he's old, so he just dies. What was the point? I thought he was over Peggy. And not only that, Bucky? Why did I go through all of that? Cap doing the most to save Bucky, ruining his relationship with Tony and making him and other Avengers fugitives for Bucky to leave Bucky. Bucky didn't even look happy about it. He didn't. Why did they make Steve go back? It makes no sense. Why would he leave Bucky? Why? I thought he was over Peggy. I get he's done with the hero life and he just wants to settle down and have a nice life. In Age of Ultron, he said, I'm home. It feels like Cap he's made his peace with the fact that he's in a new era. I've always felt that he made his peace. And he's moving forward and having this new life in the future with Bucky. But then they said, forget all of that, he's going back in time. And I guess it kind of feels like they undid his own character development to have him go back with Peggy, because I thought he had made peace with being in the future. I thought he had made peace with everyone he loved being gone. Because, Bucky's still here. He went through hell to get Bucky back, and now he's just going to leave Bucky. For what? Makes no sense. And then you bring him back as an old man, so he's just going to die. If you were just going to kill Cap anyways, why didn't you make him snap? It just felt like a backward step in progression of Cap's character to make him go back and stay with Peggy. It just did. And then it also feel like a backward step in progression with Tony to make him be the one to sacrifice himself. Because they said it's always been about Tony learning to be the one that makes the big sacrifice. And I'm like, did he not learn that in Avengers? When he literally flew through a wormhole and shot a nuclear weapon into space and nearly died. That whole sacrifice arc was learned in Avengers. I more think that Cap should have died, not just because of Tony having more reason to live, but also just because it doesn't make sense for Cap's story for him to go back in time and stay with Peggy. And then there's the confusion about whether or not he created a whole new timeline, because the writers said that he didn't, but then the movie itself says that he did, because anytime you go back and make any kind of change, you've created a whole new timeline. So Steve going back and staying with Peggy should have created a whole new timeline where Steve is not Captain America, someone else maybe. Who? Nobody knows. But apparently he's in the same timeline, which doesn't make sense because how does old Steve exist at the same time? How? How do the two different Steves coexist? That should be very problematic for the timeline, and yet they said it is what it is. Maybe if they could have found another way to do something with Cap that didn't involve going back in time, I would still agree with Tony being the one to die. At the time, it did seem like a very satisfying ending, because obviously someone had to. It couldn't be any of the new people. It had to be one of the OG Avengers, and out of all of them, it had to have either been Cap or Tony. It couldn't be the other ones. So yes, it does, for a satisfying ending, make sense. But then when I just think about what else could have happened, I'm like, well, so does Cap. Cap snapping probably makes more sense. I just think Cap snapping would have made more sense. And we could have avoided the whole he's going to go back in time and stay with Peggy. And now people are afraid that he's going to die off camera and they're going to have a memorial service for him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which no one really wants. If Cap's going to go out, I want to see Cap go out. I want to see him have that moment. Comparable to what he did in the first Avenger when he drove the plane into the ice. Tony could have lived and retired. Tony could have still been out of the story and retired and gone. He could have just been living on a farm with his family. That's a better reason to stop being a superhero than you just want to stop. Because obviously if Cap was still around, he'd be like, well, I have to keep going because I'm still running and I'm still capable, I'm still alive and kicking. I can do it. Tony could have just been like, I have a family and I have kids, so I'm going to stop now. And that's understandable. It's understandable. So like, it's not like Tony couldn't have retired if he was still alive. Could have just been like, I'm out of here. I really don't know why. I mean, maybe the circumstances around what happened with Cap's character would make more sense with him not being the one to snap, but it's just what they ended up doing with him anyways, then makes no sense at all, and you could have just killed him in the battle, he could have just snapped, because that would have made more sense than him going back and staying with Peggy, only to come back, be old as heck, and then die off screen. Kind of weak. Should have just killed him. Should have just had him snap. And then Tony could have been off screen living with his family happily ever after, and it would have been fine. I think Cap or Tony dying would have been a satisfying ending, and if that was what you were gonna do, could have just done Cap. You're welcome to disagree. It's movie's over a year old now. People probably aren't debating about this anymore. My next problem with Endgame leads into my problem that's happening right now with the MCU, which is Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel should not have been in Endgame at all, because what did she do? Absolutely nothing. She did nothing. She came in, she blew up a ship, and then she was here for the girls rock scene, and that was it. Oh yeah, and she cut her hair to be a lesbian. Is this the representation I deserve? No. Anyway, because Captain Marvel being in Endgame also ruined her own solo movie, because then there was a rush to explain Captain Marvel's powers and then justify her being in Endgame, because you can't just bring in a whole new character in the finale of your era, you know? It's kind of weird. We should stick with the people we already know, but they wanted to bring in Captain Marvel to go head-to-head with Wonder Woman when Black Widow was staring them right in the face, and they just said Captain Marvel, and I'm like, because Captain Marvel's movie, the problem with her movie is that it doesn't explain her as a character at all, in my opinion. It just explains her powers. It's an origin story for her powers, rather than an origin story for Carol Danvers. Like, the whole conflict is Carol learning how to take control of her own powers and not listen to anyone else, so she can be at her max power and do what she wants. But who is Carol? Who is she? What are her personal flaws? What are her character developments? What are her arcs as a person, as a human being? I don't know. I feel like I don't know Carol, but I sure know that she can fly and blast things out of her hands. That's all I really seem to know. That's all I take away from her movie, which I think is the big hindrance. It's an amnesiac story, and even the resolution to getting her memories back is getting full power. Achieving her full power is tied with learning who she is about learning her full potential and coming into her full power. And it's like, who is she as a person? Who is Carol? We don't know, because they rushed her movie to justify her appearance at Endgame. Because everyone wanted to know, okay, Captain Marvel's going to be in it. How is she going to affect the story? What is she going to do? Is she going to defeat Thanos? Blah, 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 blah. But obviously she can't defeat Thanos, because that's not a satisfying ending. To have the character that we've only known for like a movie come in and defeat the big baddie that we've known since Avengers? No, it had to be one of the OG Avengers. So obviously Captain Marvel's there fully incapable, but she can't be the one to do the final act because that's not a satisfying ending. So why bring her in the story to begin with? She wasn't even in it. Her end credit scene is her in Endgame. It's the beginning of Endgame where she comes in and she's like, where's Fury? Because Fury had called her at the end of Infinity War. And so now she's showing up. She's like, where he at? And that's her end credit scene in her movie. And that's her, I think, first scene in Endgame. And then she leaves. And then she's gone until this little hologram meeting. And then she's gone again until the end when she blows up a ship. She goes toe-to-toe with Thanos for like a second, but then she loses. Why was Captain Marvel here? She should not have been here because it was just messy and she didn't even do anything, so it was a waste of time. Why didn't you just save her for something else? I think they should have saved her for Phase 4. And you know who should have had a solo movie come out right before Endgame? Black Widow. We'll talk about it in a second. But yeah, Captain Marvel should have been the headliner for Phase 4, and she could have been the new big powerful hero to like usher us into Phase 4 and be like, I guess, the Cap of Phase 4 or the Thor of Phase 4. I don't know. I'm thinking power wise, but I mean like symbol wise of the Avengers, because she could have been like the next Cap or something. She just could have been the big hero of Phase 4. Her and Doctor Strange could have been it. But for some reason, they wanted her to debut in Phase 3 right before the end of Phase 3. And it was a mess. And it didn't even work out. Her solo movie was not good. And then she didn't do anything in Endgame. And it was a waste of time. And they should not have had her there. Captain Marvel, the movie, her solo movie should have been the beginning of Phase 4. Starting Phase 4 with this new powerful female hero. That's where she should have been. She should not have been here in Endgame. And her movie should not have come out right before Endgame. Because it was not that great. Not that great. Waste of time. And then what you should have done, which leads into my current issue with the MCU right now, is Black Widow. Black Widow, when I heard about it, I was like, why are we doing a solo movie with a character who's dead, who I just watched die? Why is she here? It's all because they took forever to give us a Black Widow movie, and so now they're like, now that she's dead, perhaps we'll make her movie. Now that she's gone, she's canonically dead, perhaps we'll make her movie. Why? I don't know. You should have done... Black Widow movie should have come out so long ago. But if it was going to come out this late, it should have came out when Captain Marvel did. Because Black Widow was going to die in Endgame anyways. Having her solo movie come out after she's been dead for a year... Initially, it was a year. Now we're going past a year because of the pandemic. Theaters are closed, so the movie keeps getting delayed. Why? Why are we going back? Why are we starting Phase 4 with a film that canonically takes place at the beginning of Phase 3? It makes no sense. They should have just had Black Widow come out before Endgame. Would it have maybe spoiled that Black Widow was going to die? Maybe, I guess. Could have just killed Clint, but no, I'm not gonna get into that. But since Black Widow died, it would have made more sense to have her solo movie come out right before the movie where she dies, so we could have at least gotten to know her a little bit better before she died, and her death could have been more impactful. And then maybe the side characters, Yelena and everyone else, could have been in Endgame, and they could have been taking up that mantle for Natasha now that she's gone. They're taking up that mantle during this big, huge fight, and they're doing what she would have done. They're honoring her in the fight against Thanos. Could have been like that. Could have been like that. Could have been more meaningful, more impactful. And you could have had Yelena in the little girl power scene. I don't know why. Because now here we are. We're in 2021. They want Black Widow to come out in May. But this pandemic is still going. It's still raging. We're barely getting the vaccine out. The people in this country are not really wearing masks. They're not really social distancing. God knows when this will be over. And in May, February, that's in 3 months. No one's going to want to sit in a theater. No one. Not in these packed theaters, these seats where you're like right next to someone. Yeah, and your food's just out and people could be coughing and sneezing all over your food. No one's going to the theaters in May. At least not to the capacity that they want. I get it. It's a $100 million plus budget movie. It's a big blockbuster. It deserves a theater, but you have to be realistic. We're not in the times for a theater. We are in a panoramic. It's not going to work out. you could actually hurt your movie by forcing it to go on to theaters when you could just release it onto Disney Plus and theaters. The farther we get away from Endgame, the less this movie is even going to make sense. Because she died 2 years ago and we're getting her solo movie now. Why? Because Marvel doesn't know how to plan. Kevin Feige, I thought you had this planned out. I thought you had this all figured out. What's happening? Y'all want to be stubborn and you're like, it's going to go into theaters. It deserves a theater experience. We're in a pandemic. Everything deserves a theater experience. If you make a movie, it should rightfully go into theaters. But we're not in a reality where that can happen safely. No, we're not there yet. Maybe in New Zealand, in Australia, where they seem to have things under control, but not here. Not in the US of A, where nothing is under control. It's just not going to happen realistically, okay? So forcing Black Widow to stay at that May release date with no Disney Plus plans, it's like, why? Just do it. Unfortunately, it does deserve a theater experience, but it might not get one. You might release it into theaters, and then no one might go. Or if anyone goes, it will be very few. The capacity will be not what it usually is. Less than half. And it's like, just put it onto Disney Plus. Charge your little $30 premiere access fee, and be done with it. I don't know how well that worked for Mulan. I don't think it worked well at all. But it's what had to be done. Because no one was going into theaters when it came out, and no one is going to be in theaters in May. So yeah, Black Widow should have came out a long time ago, but it's not, and now they're holding on to it for dear life, which also annoys me because they're pushing back the rest of the MCU. I can't see Eternals or Shang-Chi until I see Black Widow. I don't even really want to see Black Widow that much. I like Natasha, but I'm not the biggest fan, so I mean, I'll see it, but like, I could go without it. I'll see it on Disney Plus happily if it means I can hurry up and see Shang-Chi and Eternals. Those movies are done filming, and I haven't even seen photos or even the slightest bit of a trailer for either of them. Why? Because Black Widow hasn't come out yet, and until it does, everything in Phase 4 will be pushed back until they hurry up and release Black Widow. Every time they delay Black Widow, they're delaying the rest of the MCU projects because we can't watch them until Black Widow's out, because for some reason they relate to Black Widow, or Black Widow sets up what's going to happen in then Phase 4. So we can't see those movies until we see Black Widow. So at this point, you were delaying years worth of movies for this one movie that you could just release onto Disney Plus and be done with it. Suck it up. We're in a pandemic. No one's going to the theaters in May. We're not doing it. And if you delay it again, everyone's just going to be mad and impatient. So they just need to release Black Widow, and they need to release it now. Now would be nice, so we can move on to the other MCU titles that are coming, the ones I want to see, like Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man 3, Falcon. I don't want to see Hawkeye, but I'll see it for Haley Steinfeld. I'll see it for her. But anyways, yeah, those were this is my little chat rant in my closet about the MCU, about Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, Captain Marvel, and now Black Widow. I talked about 4 different things. It's only a 30-minute video, so hopefully I can really trim this down. I really can't wait for Spider-Man 3. I love Spider-Man, I love Peter, I love Tom Holland, and I love Zendaya, and I love Jacob Batalon. I love that whole cast, so I can't wait to see it. It's gonna take place during Christmas time. I've won. I won. I've been going through a blizzy. Do you want to see? Oops, that's the blizzy. It's getting a little darker outside. I think it's gonna snow tomorrow. Yeah. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the MCU. It's my thoughts on what's happening in the MCU. Let me know what you think about any of these topics. If you want to fight me on whether Cap or Iron Man should have snapped, do it. If you want to fight me on whether or not Black Widow should be on Disney Plus or in theaters, do it. I'd love for some discussions, because that's what this channel is called. Let's discuss, where we just discuss. We just talk about things. Be nice though, please. Oh my god, don't be mean. It's uncalled for. It's uncalled for. Be nice. But anyways, yes, my next video will be a video or a review of WandaVision episode 7. We're in the home stretch now. Things are getting real, so hopefully it'll be really fun and really exciting. But until then, peace out. Yeet.
Wait, what? Dan? All right, let me ask you this one time. What master do you serve?
What master do I serve? What am I supposed to say, Jesus?
You're from Earth.
I'm not from Earth, I'm from Missouri.
Yeah, that's on Earth, dipshit.